Everyone has ideas of what the problems are in our society and how to fix them. We took it one step further. Our premise is simple: bring together people from different backgrounds to discuss ideas that affect us. If at the end of the show you feel informed, educated, or alarmed, we have done our job. We are the Social Disruption Network.
Trump famously is starting to edit who can come into his press conferences. So what I wanted to throw out to y'all is, do you think, whether or not you think he's right or wrong for doing it to CNN, et cetera, but the larger question is, do you think the president should have the right to limit what media members come to his press conferences?
Well, that's a simple question. To me, he does have a right to limit who comes. Do I think he should exercise that right? No, I don't believe he should exercise that right. I believe that he has a right to criticize. It's not very presidential to criticize. It's not very presidential to, uh, for instance, Tom Cruise is not going to read a publication that gives him a bad review and turn around and insult the publication that gave him the bad review. Um, he puts himself on a pedestal, which stars, politicians, the president of the United States should put themselves on a pedestal, and they should not stoop to whatever lows they perceive the media as going to. I've watched CNN. I don't like it, but I watch Fox News, and there are things about Fox News I can't stand. I don't like any of them that are slanted. Um, the way they've become. I rather the old school way of just present the facts as they happen or the story as it happens, minus any opinion. But everything is an op-ed now. So does he have the right? Yes, he has the right. Should he do it? No, he should not play favorites when it comes to the media. My point of view. Hello?
Spencer?
Uh, let's see. Okay. I agree. I mean, it's a violation of the freedom of the press to sit there and pick and choose who can and can't, what media outlets can and can't join your press conferences. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like you, Gil. I'm not a big CNN person. I mean, if I do watch news, it is Fox News, just because it it accommodates to my beliefs a little better, I guess is the way to say it. Time, you got to give everybody a fair view. I mean, you're always going to have people that dislike you. They're going to be in the media. They're going to have a microphone in your face, waiting for you to say the slightest little thing that's going to get some type of disapproval from somebody. I don't think you should do it at all, personally.
All right, Sean.
So I think the president absolutely should not have the right to do that. I think the freedom of the press is far too important. We need to have the information coming from unbiased sources. We can talk about bias in the media. I think that's important. Part of the problem with that is that we basically have 6 media conglomerates that control all of the media. So we get very one-sided views of things. But the problem is you have too much power in the hands of one person. If one person gets to decide what information gets out to the public, I think that's a problem.
But he's not deciding the information that gets out. He's just saying, "Don't come to my press conference."
Hang on, give him his time, Gil.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think that an easy solution is just like maybe let Congress decide who can be in press conference. Because at the same time, like, you don't want to have like the KKK free press or something, right? I mean, there should be some discretion as far as who can come to a press conference. I just don't think it should all be in the hands of one person who's going to be and should be scrutinized by the media, who gets to decide, who gets to have access to the information.
Okay, so all three of you pretty much agree with each other. Good. I like this.
Hell no.
No, I mean,
I wouldn't.
Yes, you
What?
did. All three of you pretty much agreed.
Is it snowing outside?
No, we don't agree. We don't agree. Our reasons for agreeing that he doesn't have I specifically said that he does have the right. Sean said he does not have the right. So there is a large disagreement there. The biggest disagreement is that what I heard Sean say was the fact of trying to find unbiased media. There is no such thing in today's society. There's no such thing as unbiased media. Now, do I believe he should exercise the right is the difference. I don't believe he should.
Right. That's what
I don't believe that I believe Trump is egotistical. I believe that he lets his ego get in the way. Am I a supporter? Yes, but he has major character flaws that that especially taking this media thing to the limit that he has. I don't believe he should do it, but does he have a right to do it? That's a totally different subject. Yes, he has a right to do it, but I don't believe he should do it. I think that fairness and decency come into play, and he should not be exercising his right to limit people from coming there. I believe that's just ridiculous. Now, what is the difference between him saying, hey, don't come to my press conference, or shutting them out completely by saying, hey, Sean Spicer, you don't call on them? You know what I mean? Like, he could do so many different things, and it's just sad to me that we have to resort to watching a president do what he's doing. I'm a supporter, but I just don't like the nitpickiness, you know?
Okay. All right. Well, here's my take on it. First off, you want to talk about freedom of the press. Okay. That has the government interfering with the distribution of information. So whether or not the reporters are in there, they can still get the information from the press conference. They don't have to be there. You have what they call pull reporters. So Trump saying CNN, ABC, MSNBC, whatever, you can't come into the press conferences. They're still going to get the information. They're still going to know what went on in there. They may not be able to ask questions, but they'll still get the information. So there's no destruction of freedom of the press.
That's not true.
Wait,
they can't ask questions if they're not in the room.
I just said they can't ask questions. But if I give a press conference where I'm just going to give a speech and then walk out the room and not take questions, then a reporter not in the room has the same access as a reporter not in the room. There is no freedom of the press interruption.
Okay, but you're talking about a very specific occurrence that almost never happens. But anyway,
actually, it happens quite often.
That they just talk and then don't.
How many
don't take
questions did Trump take during the State of the Union?
Okay, that's a State of the Union. That's not a press conference.
He still spoke to the press. He spoke to everybody.
Yeah, he spoke to everyone.
But he doesn't. But what I'm saying is, he doesn't have to take questions, and they can also submit it in writing. They can also have somebody else ask the questions. But
anyway,
bottom line,
let's go on.
Bottom line, just because you're not in the room doesn't mean you don't get to still give out the information. The information's still there. Whether or not you ask a question or not, the information is still there.
Okay, so devil's advocate, is it okay for him to invite them in, or just not necessarily invite them? They're a part of that pool. They have pre-cleared credentials to get in and out. Get them in there, and then as they're raising their hands and saying they want to ask a question, just ignore them.
Hold on. Let's let Dave make his point, because I think he's going to say something even more wild than what he's saying right now. So.
Oh, he's got something else. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm not saying anything wild. I'm just saying I think he absolutely has the right to do it, and I think it's fine if he chooses to exercise that right.
I agree with that 100%.
Whether or not he wants to talk to CNN, whether or not he wants to have CNN even in the room is perfectly up to his right, because there's no way he can prevent CNN from reporting what he did. That's freedom of the press. He can't contact Ted Turner. No, he can't go to Ted Turner and say, you can't put this on your network. That's where you interfere with freedom of the press.
Yeah, and then he crosses a line, and that line you can't come back from.
Another topic you can get into, if you'd like, is what Mark Cuban did to Bleacher Report. That does interfere with freedom of the quote-unquote press. We could talk about that if you'd like, if you're familiar with that topic.
No, what happened with that?
I'll come back to that.
Okay.
But what Trump did, what Trump does not affect freedom of the press. They can still go and report. They still have the video. They still have the audio. They can do whatever they want to it. That doesn't affect freedom of the press. And I think Trump is well within his rights of saying, I only want these media outlets in there. Now, he still has to take the bullets for making that decision, but I don't think that interferes with his job as president or with him getting the information out. Because whether he does it on a radio address, whether he does it on CNN, whether he does it on a one-on-one interview with Captain Cupcake from NBC, doesn't matter. The information still gets out there.
Okay, but all you're doing is you're very narrowly defining what the freedom of the press is. Part of the freedom of the press is the freedom to ask questions. If he was in a room full of people from Fox News and Breitbart and, I don't know, Milo Yiannopoulos or whatever, and like they're all the ones asking him questions, and if that's what we got every day, for the next 4 years, then that's a very different picture of who our president is and what our government is doing than if you have people from, I mean, not that anyone from the left is ever in that room, but, people from the center or center left or whatever. It's just a very different situation if the people who can ask you questions are all your friends as opposed to people who might be critical.
Okay.
Let me step in. I actually agree with Sean. I mean, you need to still have some type of fairness and let somebody else ask questions, not simply.
I don't
Sean
have to
said,
answer your questions though. If I don't want to answer your
I
questions,
mean,
I
just
don't
still
have
give
to.
them the chance to. Don't just ban them completely from the having the availability to ask questions. I mean, at least
But Gil, even under what you're saying, if you're not even in the room, then I don't even have to say that, like, no, I don't want to take your question. Because at the point where I say, no, I don't want to take your question because you're a leftist or whatever, then, like, that's a newsworthy thing. To, like, cause this confrontation, to, like, bring it into the public eye that this is happening, like, on a constant basis or
But he did bring it to
whatever.
the public eye. He did bring it into the public eye that I don't like you, so he banned them. So it's the same as bringing them in the room and saying, I'm not going to answer your questions today, but you're welcome to sit here. Same thing.
It's not the same. It's not the same because if I let you in the room and I have to deal with that every single time that I give a press conference, then it stays in the news. I mean, maybe at some point it becomes normalized to the point where nobody covers it anymore, but at least there's the opportunity for people to cover it as, an ongoing situation. Whereas, like, if they're just outside the room, then they're just not there. Like, that's not a story anymore. He already did it. It's like something that happened in the past. But if it happens, every day, whenever he gives his press conference,
does the president have the right to revoke their credentials?
Well, I mean, whether or not he has he obviously has a right. He's done it.
He does have a right to revoke their credentials, but does it make it the right thing to do? You see, I'll agree with that.
I don't think he should have the right. Is part of what I'm saying. I think that Congress should maybe play a role in determining who can be in the room.
So then we have a Republican-led Congress who will say, okay, I'll back the president. They can't come in. And then when you get a Democrat, then they got to go back. It's just too much interference from legislation. I wish we could just avoid that. Like, God, man, legislation and everything. It's just ridiculous. 2 minutes.
Do you honestly think that the Washington Post is going to change their coverage of Trump one iota based on whether or not they've got a Washington Post reporter in that room?
Absolutely. They're not going to be able to ask the questions that they would be able to ask if they were in the room.
But it won't change their opinion, though. He said, will it change their opinion?
No, he said, will they change their coverage?
Okay, with coverage is opinion in today's, everything is op-ed now. Opinions, everything is opinions.
Right. But what I'm saying is, no, I don't think they're going to change their opinions.
Okay,
but their coverage is going to be different because they're not going to be able to ask the same questions as they would.
The only thing about coverage will be different is they won't be in the room. That's the only difference about their coverage.
To ask specific questions that they're interested in.
Then their opinion and coverage will be the same. The only thing is location of their coverage. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. Their opinion will be the same.
If I want to ask you specifically, why was Flynn?
Ask me a question. Go ahead.
Okay. My point is, I can ask you any number of questions right now, right?
Next.
Okay, sure, but then I can report on that. I can report on this.
Next.
I've actually been to one of Gil's press conferences. This is actually how he acts.
Next.
I wouldn't want to be in that room.
I've had many of them before.
It had good food. I ain't gonna lie.
30 seconds, David. Close this segment out, David. 30 seconds.
Well, no, like I said, I'd love to come back to this. I mean, I think freedom of the press is something you really have to worry about, but I don't think Trump's stepping on it. I don't think he's stepping on freedom of the press. I think he's well within his rights. And I really don't have a problem with it because I don't think it changes anything.
And I'll agree with that. I think Sean, in one way, is right with. I mean, we're all saying similar things. I really do think that he shouldn't be doing it. I don't think we need to legislate it. I think it's a level of common decency.
I think he should.
That we should legislate it?
No, I think he should.
So you think he should have a room full of Breitbart? That's what you think?
If need be, yes.
Well, what would determine need be? You see, that's just it.
Now I was about to ask the same thing. What would be the need for that?
Yeah.
You see, now we're getting into the dictatorship, the socialist.
How so?
When you say need to. Who's going to determine need to? You see, we should never have to determine that. You know?
No, I'm talking about remove, if he wants to remove organizations that are not going to give him any leeway, any opportunity to get any of his message out, if they're constantly interrupting him and things like that during his
That
speeches.
isn't the problem. That's not
No,
what
I'm just saying, if need be, that would be a situation where I would have you removed. If I was president and every
I
time
mean, if they
started
were being
talking,
if they became unruly, I could
that's my
understand
point.
having. Yeah, but I mean, you still allow them to be there, and let them
Yeah,
ask
that's my point. That's what I'm saying. If need be,
Yeah.
I could see it. But I'm talking about in extreme cases. I'm not saying about having a room full of Breitbart. Unless everybody from CNN got up and started chanting, then I don't think CNN is going to be removed permanently. That's my point.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, that's another one that I guess this panel will never see eye to eye on. Jesus, what do we have in common? I don't
Hair
think we
care
have
products.
hair care product. Well, lack of. Look.
Hey, same here.